Teresa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold nobody
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hey, folks, today is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I told y'all Donald Trump does not give a damn about black people. In Louisiana, a U.S. attorney tells a judge they want to review the case of a deputy sheriff who beat a black woman. He was convicted. The judge said, hell no. We're proceeding with sentencing. You have time to review. We're going to talk to y'all about that with Megan Cunn, the reporter, who posted this on the social earlier today. Also, a judge tells the Trump folks they need to reinstate 123 international students who had their visa snatched by these Trump thugs. Also, they are forcing 5 million students to begin to repay student loans. Folks, they may even garnish your wages. And we go live to Atlanta in our second hour for the Target boycott town hall taking place at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta. Lots to unpack. It's time to bring the funk. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
consistently said that Donald Trump and his thuggish MAGA administration wants to consistently attack black people. They do not care about these thug cops who also beat and harm people. And I was on social media earlier today, and Megan Cundiff, a legal affairs reporter, posted a tweet about a story that was outrageous. Sheriff was convicted of beating a black woman. That sheriff is going to get sentenced next month. Well, the U.S. attorney goes before the judge and says they want a delay in the case because he wants to review this case. And the judge is like, I'm sorry, you got time between now and the sentencing, so no, there will not be any delay in sentencing. Megan Cundiff joins us right now. Megan, glad to have you on the show. This is crazy to me. We've seen this. Trump, when he got inaugurated, he issued a pardon for a cop who they chased down and they shot a black man in Washington, D.C. We've seen other stories where they are pulling out of settlements that in Alabama, a case in Louisiana regarding petrochemical companies. But when it comes to cops, they literally are letting cops get away with heinous crimes because Trump does not believe that they need to be adjudicated. Walk us through what happened with this item you posted today.
And I think it's with that background that you provided that people are a little worried on the victim side, at least, about what's going to happen with the attorney or with the U.S. attorney wanting to review this case. Because, of course, the prosecutors have so far taken an aggressive stance here against this. They've opposed the motion for acquittal, directed verdict from his attorneys. But, of course, that was before Trump appointed this new guy in. And the first indication we got that he might have a different view on the case occurred when they asked for this long 3-month delay in a sentencing. And this is a case that only took 3 days to actually try before a jury. But for some reason, they said, we don't want to do the sentencing in May. Can we do it in August now? And, of course, the defense wanted to go along with that because they're hoping that this new U.S. attorney somehow persuades the judge to throw the case out. But they're in a bit of a bind because the prosecutors already have a conviction. So the prosecutors might be in a place where they're trying to almost undermine their own conviction, but the conviction still stands, and it's really up to the judge whether to throw it out, and he's already said no.
And again, so give us the background of this case. What happened?
So this was outside of a Winco. I think those are pretty specific to the West Coast, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, California, and Oregon, but they're grocery stores. And a deputy responded to a robbery call there, and a couple, the woman who is the victim here and then a man she was with supposedly matched the description of the robbers. And the prosecutors in their case against this deputy say that the two deputies did everything right with the man, that they were able to de-escalate the situation and take him into custody without incident. But the woman was filming this and telling them that she was filming it. She was even telling them that, hey, I've got this on YouTube Live. And the prosecutor's theory is that this one deputy really didn't like that, and he wanted to retaliate against this woman. It just made him mad that he was being filmed like that, and he ended up taking her to the ground and pepper spraying her. And of course, this is all on body camera footage. And the police said that, the prosecutor said that he had no justifiable means to do that. That was excessive force, and that was the case they presented to the jury. And the jury said, yes, that's excessive.
Okay, so deputy sheriff, excessive force against his black woman, does nothing wrong. They go to trial, last 3 days. Jury says, you're right. He gets convicted. They set a sentencing. Now, Trump's U.S. attorney wants to come in and say, hey, we want to review the case. And, okay, it's already done. It's already done. And this judge said, what the hell? That's 3 weeks, 4 weeks before sentencing. You got time to review it in a month.
Yeah. The judge was really saying, why would you need more time than the time that you already have right now to review this? And it was interesting because I went there expecting the new U.S. attorney to be there, wanting to talk about this case, but he just left this to the line prosecutors who were there trying to explain why they should delay a sentencing for 3 months. And it was an awkward dance. They were dancing in front of the judge for sure, and he really didn't buy it. I mean, it was 6 minutes of a kind of back and forth, and then he just said, motion denied, sentencing proceeds on the 19th. So it's a big question of what are they going to recommend for this guy? The maximum is 10 years in prison, and it's unlikely under any circumstances that he would face the maximum. But you would expect prosecutors to recommend some kind of prison sentence. But I think people are worried. People who support this prosecution are worried that it's going to be undermined from the inside now.
Well, first of all, I mean, let's look. We see what happened, and where 3 prosecutors today in New York City resigned in the case dealing with Mayor Eric Adams, where they issued a scathing letter where the Trump administration was trying to pressure them to, frankly, lie about not being pressured, and they quit. And what we're seeing where Trump's U.S. attorneys are coming into office and literally undoing cases, crapping on the work of prosecutors who say, no, we got us a conviction, that's our job. And when it involves cops, especially involving cops, Trump wants to let those cops off scot-free.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see it that way. And what some people are concerned about is they indicate in court yesterday that Bill, the new U.S. attorney in L.A., this is not the only case that he's reviewing right now. So I've asked the U.S. Attorney's Office, Public Information Office, if they can say what other cases are being reviewed here. And I've yet to hear back. So we'll see.
Well, and the reason the folks with the victim had better be concerned, because in January, literally, when Trump let the January 6th domestic terrorists free via pardons, he also pardoned 2 cops in Washington, D.C., who were convicted in the 2020 death of Karan Hilton Brown. These cops were found guilty of second-degree murder, conspiracy to obstruction of justice in connection with the death. And what was crazy to me is that Washington, D.C., did not like the fact that these cops are being prosecuted. They felt they could have handled this with an administrative hearing, and the U.S. Attorney's Office was like, no, this should actually go to trial. They were convicted. Trump pardoned those cops for that. And so I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be shocked if this judge, no matter what he sentences with, that Trump turns around and pardons this police abuser.
Exactly. And I've heard from this police officer's camp that really is supporting him that's what they're going for, that they've gone to Washington, D.C. And I'm a little amazed at their use of the word lawfare and their insistence that this must have been a political prosecution. Because just having reported on federal cases in Los Angeles for a few years, the unit that prosecuted this police officer, it's the Public Corruption and Civil Rights Unit of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And they're supposed to be nonpartisan, but really when you look at the cases that they've done, at least the cases that I've covered, most of the people they've prosecuted that I've written about have been Democrats. So the idea that there's somehow just these, neoliberals that are just going on, anti the Trump agenda, it's not true at all. But then you have some people on the other hand who actually appear to be playing politics with this case. They got somebody in office that appears to not like what the jury did, and they're hoping that they can get him to try to bend the case to their will. I mean, it seems like they're the ones trying to play politics with it.
But unfortunately, Megan, it is the anti-Trump agenda. Trump is anti-civil rights. And I guarantee, and so Trump does not believe in civil rights. He said during the campaign, he wanted to give cops 100% immunity. We tried to warn people about this, and that the problem here is that this was not a state prosecution. So I got to ask you this. Was this officer, was he tried by the state, or did the state step away and allow the feds to move forward? So if that's the case, so the only way Trump can intervene if it's a federal case, was there ever a state prosecution?
The state prosecutors in LA did look at the case. They did not prosecute him. That's why it
was
federal. And that's actually something that his supporters are pointing at. And it's not the worst point, because George Gascon, who was in LA and didn't prosecute him, does like to prosecute cops. I mean, the idea that Gascon would not prosecute someone who deserved to be prosecuted, they were really pointing to, if Gascon wouldn't take this case, the prosecutors must have been really out of line to take this case. But I think there's a whole other side to that. And in the end, from what I've seen from their defense, it's everything that was presented to a jury. And the overall defense is that he was following policy, and that they all do this in these situations. So I think it's a little bit alarming that 12 people in LA County or the federal jury area around LA heard all this and saw the video of her being pepper sprayed and still said, this is out of line. We shouldn't have officers doing it. And the police response to this is not to take it to heart and wonder about this. Maybe some are, but overall, the response is that they're being unfairly treated, and that this is just
because that dovetails exactly with what Trump thinks. He believes, and a lot of these conservatives believe, and these cops believe, that they should be able to do whatever they want. We know for a fact the last time the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief sat in the Oval Office, Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr specifically said they were pulling back from consent decrees. They all decried the morale of cops. Then you've got so-called progressives, liberals like Bill Maher, who praised Trump restoring the morale of cops. And let's just be honest. Police in this country cannot stand oversight, and they can't stand accountability. And anytime a single cop is held responsible, their response is like some petulant child, and they respond with, we're not going to police, we're not going to answer calls, oh my God, this is unfair. I mean, you rarely ever see a cop say, you know what? That asshole should no longer be on the force. No, they are protective of each other because they say, oh, it might be us one day, and we want the same protection.
Yeah, one of the deputies, the sheriff's deputies who are supporting this guy, one of their ways of protesting this conviction, there's an annual relay. It's Baker to Vegas. It's a big marathon, happens every year. It's the prosecutor's office is really big into it. The police officers always form teams for it. Some of the deputies actually boycotted the relay as a way of protesting this conviction. I mean, it's the thin blue line, and the whole idea that being blue is somehow an ethnicity or something that they seem to latch onto.
Well, I'm going to call it the thick blue line because we see this all around the country. The folks supporting the victim, how are they responding? What are they doing? Are they just hoping the judge do right? Are they any public pressure? What are they doing in this case?
Yeah, I think they're hoping for a lenient sentence, but really it's a pardon that they need right now, because the problem for them is their guy came in after the conviction already happened. So once there's a conviction, it's in the judge's hand, and he actually issued a ruling on Friday saying, no, the conviction stands. So maybe there's a chance he would give a lenient sentence, but the conviction will always be there. So I think they're hoping they can get Trump to issue a pardon on this. And it's interesting because the police aren't completely uniform on this. He has some vocal supporters. The former sheriff in LA County is one of them. But the current sheriff is, I think, takes a little bit of a different tone. And so it's not completely unified, but it's still, I think they're still clamoring for that pardon. So we'll see.
Well, well, for folks who don't know, that former sheriff was the one who I'll call him a thug, and then he lost, and then he tried to run for re-election. And did he switch parties? So explain what happened there, because he had some serious problems.
Yeah, he's a story all in himself. And as far as I know, at least through the years, Villanueva has been a Democrat, but he definitely embraces the fake news aspect of the MAGA agenda for sure. But he's definitely been on the deputy side, Deputy Kirk's side, and he was in court for him. And there's even video after the verdict of them hugging in the hallway outside the courthouse.
Yeah, but he was also the one. Didn't he also launch an investigation into reporters
Yes.
who are reporting
Yeah.
in some cases?
Yes, all sorts of that stuff. All sorts of that stuff. He's not a friend to the press, that's for sure.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, for the woman who was beaten here, I really think, and I'll be perfectly honest, knowing how this is going to turn out, I think the solace they're going to have is that the guy was convicted. Whatever the judge sentences him, I would not be shocked, and I will put money on it, that within a week of this sentencing, it may be the next day, Trump is going to pardon this cop.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to find out in less than a month. Then it seems like so May 19th, and then they've got to file their papers too, saying in the weeks before, saying how much time they're gonna ask for him. So it'll be interesting to see the tone on that. But Roland, I think you're predicting the future here. We might be talking about this later on.
Yeah, and so unfortunately we have to deal with this constantly, and where this man does not believe that cops should be held accountable for anything, and he said that he wants 100% immunity. So as he said, they can do their jobs, and these cops know that with Donald Trump, they have a 100% license, and that's why people like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and these conservatives are calling for Trump to pardon the cop that killed George Floyd on the federal charges. They want him to pardon him on those charges because they know that they have somebody in office who's going to use the pardon power to let cops go free.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a real life example play out here over the next few weeks here in LA. So I'm so glad you're interested in the case.
Well, we've been covering these things. This is what we warn people about with Credit 2025. We warn people. And this is also why on social media I've been challenging all of these black MAGA folks by saying, if y'all so-called claim that you support black people, it's amazing how they are eerily quiet on every single move that Donald Trump makes that's anti-black. And so they expose exactly who they are. So we'll keep looking forward to it. Look forward to see what this judge does. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Megan, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I want to bring in my panel right now, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Lee, former senior advisor for environmental justice with the EPA out of D.C., Teresa Lundy, principal and founder of TML Communications out of Philadelphia, also Eugene Craig, CEO X Factor Media, Baltimore, Maryland. Glad to have all three of you here. Eugene, I'll start with you. And I said it. Okay, we don't have Eugene. Let me know when Eugene is here. But look, I made it clear, Mustafa, Donald Trump does not give a damn about black people. He is anti-black. His agenda is anti-black. And he is absolutely pro-cop. He doesn't care if these cops kill people, beat people, maim people. He is going to let them off.
Yeah, I mean, and his policies speak to that. He doesn't have any policies that are protective of our communities. He's actually been trying to erode many of the policies at the various agencies that could help us to be able to find justice. The individuals that he hires as a part of his staff, both at the White House and at these federal agencies, also have no record of ever being supportive of the needs that exist inside of our communities. And evidently, he doesn't also care about the facts that are out there, the studies that have shown that, on the conservative side, over 300,000 folks each year in our country end up dealing with this type of police violence. We've got over 100,000 injuries that happen every year, and everybody knows the statistics around the fatal encounters. Like, I think in 2024, we had over 1,300 people, and we know that black folks are 3 times more likely to be the recipients of violence, of police misconduct, of false use of force. So whether it's the facts, the policy, or the individuals that he surrounds himself with, it shows very clearly that our lives don't seem to have the same value as others that he does try and protect and does try and uplift.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been covering this, and Teresa, from day one. I have said that Donald Trump wants to completely destroy the black civil rights and economic agenda. That's what this is all about, pure and simple. He is showing exactly who he is. Teresa, you on mute.
Thank you. And it's unfortunate because the writing was on the wall when he was first elected in 2016. And yet, you know, folks decided they wanted to put him back in the office. And actually, instead of him taking 4 years to do a destruction, he's now doing it within under 100 days. And I think, you know, as we, you know, all try to figure out how to navigate, you know, Trump, his team, his policies, I think, you know, the rule of law is really going to have to be our blueprint here on how we govern as a society, but also being very aware of the tactics that they're doing. We've seen what Trump administration has been doing in the justice system, where, you know, basically he's creating signals to law enforcement officers that, you know, if something goes down, we got your back. And it's unfortunate because, as Mustafa said, it is affecting our communities and our neighborhoods. But I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Democrats just, you know, need to get aligned, not only in their communication, but in unification on strategies ahead.
Well, I don't know what the light at the end of the tunnel is, because the reality is, Mustafa, unlike in previous years, we cannot look to. I mean, I'll dare say this here. Even if I factor in Nixon, Reagan, both Bushes, and to some degree, this thug's first administration. This will be the first time since the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division was created that we cannot, under any circumstance, look to the federal government for any help prosecuting rogue cops.
Oh, that's exactly right. And I've worked with folks at the Department of Justice and Civil Rights Division and in other divisions that are there. There is no longer, there never has been a safe harbor in relationship to the impacts that are happening inside of our communities. But now you have folks who are intentionally making sure that they are deconstructing any possibility of us finding justice or equity in relationship to how they move. So we as a community have to make sure that we are helping to keep ourselves protected. We have to be smart and strategic about where we find ourselves and how we move. And that's not saying that that is right. I mean, as American citizens, you should be able to do and say whatever the Constitution allows. But we also have to understand the moment that we are living in. And this is a very dangerous and deadly situation that is lining up. For me, the North Star is actually the midterms. And that doesn't mean that anything is going to significantly change, but we can begin to balance out power. We can have folks on Capitol Hill who can pull people up and have hearings on issues and put pressure. So that is still a little ways off. So we have to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to keep ourselves safe and to make sure that we are truly living as a community. And unfortunately, once again, we have to carry additional weight that we shouldn't have to, but we understand, you know, the history of America. And, you know, we just got to make sure that we modify and adapt for the moment to the situations that we're dealing with.
Well, Teresa, the reason I think this is a lot different is because you have an individual who is trying to undo convictions. It was different in the first time when they only launched one police patterns and practice investigation, which was a small police department. I think it was in Louisiana or Alabama. I can't remember which one of the two. Or maybe it was in Mississippi. It was one of them three anti-black states. This is different. This is trying to stop and undo convictions. And then this is using the pardon power. So if they even are convicted, to allow them to go free. This is absolutely unprecedented.
And again, I was honestly talking about when I said the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm hoping that it will be the midterms where we start seeing change. But when we talk about the convictions, it is yes, it's different. It's unseen, it's unheard of. The signs were there early on when he was packing the court. But I do believe that, if we have some of these judges that, do not have the same frame of reference of how they are interpreting the law on these convictions, then I think, and some of these defense attorneys that is going to hold them accountable, I don't think it'll be as serious. I just think the Trump administration is actually trying to see how much they can get away with.
Oh, I mean, they've made it clear what they can get away with. Again, he holds the ultimate pardon if a cop is convicted. I mean, look, they don't care about lying prosecutors. They don't care. Mustafa, we have seen multiple prosecutors in New York City resign because of the Eric Adams case. They don't care. They want lying prosecutors to lie. They are forcing out prosecutors in Washington, D.C. They are forcing out prosecutors all across the country. If you believe in holding cops accountable, Trump's U.S. attorneys are going to likely run you away or fire you if you do not hold the line. This is official Trump policy. We let cops do what they want to do.
Yeah, it's doctrine for them, right? They believe that this is a part of the new world order that they're trying to put in place. It also, gives them that additional flexibility that they've been looking for. We've seen the dynamics around the military and them removing people there or pushing people out. It's the same dynamic when it comes to other parts of law enforcement. Everybody's paid attention to the FBI, some of the other law enforcement agencies, but they haven't been paying as much attention to some of these other dynamics that are playing out. This is just one example of trying to actually run the board, right, to make sure that you have power in all possible ways. And folks need to pay attention to it, but don't just pay attention to it. You've got to also speak out. You've also got to make sure, as we've said earlier, that you understand how important your vote is and make an informed decision about how you want to utilize that. The last thing that I'll say is that we've got to also make sure that people are paying attention to these state attorney generals and making sure that that is a part of their equation when they're deciding how they want to utilize their vote. Because we've got to make sure that not only on the federal side that we have folks who are focused on justice and equity, but in the state and even on the local level and the county level, it's important to make sure that we have the right people who are there also, who are going to follow the letter of the law, but they're going to do it through a lens of understanding how important justice and equity is.
Absolutely. All right, going to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about student loans. Folks, if you've got one, Trump administration wants you to pay up. They might even garnish your wages. That's next, right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network, we are talking about all things, you got it, stress related. Yes, the big S, whether it's spiritual, physical, emotional, or sometimes it could be just in your head. Stress has a way of manifesting itself in our lives in such a way that it disrupts who we are and who we're in the process of becoming.
Stress is just as bad as a lot of the physical ailments that we think of.
That's all next on A Balanced Life on the Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Black Maternal Health Week.
The racial disparities are undeniable, making it clear that Black people experience racism from the womb. America and America's healthcare system has not taken the time to invest in what quality healthcare looks like for Black birthing people.
The state of Black maternal health in the United States is still dismal. It is environmental racism. It is systemic racism. It is the systems that we are born into.
Only on The Other Side of Change on the Black Star Network.
Next, on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The enormous impact of race, education, and affirmative action in America, and how, believe it or not, white America is starting to feel a little bit of the pain. Dr. Natasha Waraku joins us with a case study of one suburban community and how it reacted when the minority students started to excel.
Most people didn't say this explicitly, but was that, the academics standards are getting higher in part because of the Asian kids, and that is making our kids really stressed out. So we need to reduce the amount of homework teachers are allowed to assign.
She shares a perspective that you don't want to miss. That's on the next Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, I'm sure you've heard that saying that the only thing guaranteed is death and taxes. The truth is that the wealthy get wealthier by understanding tax strategy. And that's exactly the conversation that we're going to have on the next Get Wealthy, where you're going to learn wealth hacks that help you turn your wages into wealth.
Taxes is one of the largest expenses you ever have. You really got to know how to manage that thing and get that under control so that you can build wealth.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
I'm Russell L. Honoré, Lieutenant General, United States Army retired, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Remember all those folks whining and complaining, saying that, oh, Joe Biden, he didn't do enough to end student debt relief, even though he tried to get rid of all student loan debt relief with the U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court said no, and then he turned around, and then they figured out within the rules how they could wipe out more than 150, upwards of $200 billion in student loan debt. And then people were still bitching and moaning about how they wanted him to wipe out student loan debt relief when it was already clear it didn't happen. So maybe if a bunch of those same people had voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, then that would have happened, because then she would have appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. But that's another story. So what then happens? Folks sit on their asses, they don't vote, or some vote for MAGA, and guess what we now get? This from the clueless press secretary Carolyn Levitt about student loans.
The Trump administration has announced we will put an end to Joe Biden's illegal student loan bailout attempts. No student loan has been referred to collection since March of 2020. That comes to an end. On May 5th, the Department of Education will resume involuntary collections for borrowers with defaulted federal student loans. The student loan portfolio controlled by the federal government is nearly $1.6 trillion, but fewer than 4 out of 10 borrowers are in repayment. This is unsustainable, unfair, and a huge liability for American taxpayers. Debt cannot be wiped away. It just ends up getting transferred to others. So why should Americans who didn't go to college or went to college and responsibly paid back their loans pay for the student loans of other Americans? The Trump administration will never force taxpayers to pay student loan debts that don't belong to them. Student loan borrowers need clarity, and we're finally giving it to them. Borrowers will now be clearly expected to repay their loans, and those who default on their loan obligations will face involuntary collections. The government can and will collect defaulted federal student loan debt by withholding money from borrowers' tax refunds, federal pensions, and even their wages. America is $36 trillion in debt. We must get our fiscal house in order and restore common sense to our country. If you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. It's very simple.
Really? Okay, gotcha. Tell that when taxpayers Trump used $25 billion to give to farmers in last time because of his dumb tariff decision. Roxanne Garza, Director of Policy at Ed Trust, joins us now from Washington, D.C. Roxanne, glad to have you here. Elections have consequences. You know, a lot of people complaining about Biden, didn't do enough. He was catching hell from all sorts of people, and they just ignored the almost $200 billion in student loan debt relief that actually took place. Well, guess what? Now people are realizing that Trump don't give a damn, and they're now going to have to deal with the possibility of their wages being garnished.
Yeah, no, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me to talk about this issue. Yes, as we just now heard, that is the plan. So next month, for the first time in about five years, federal student loan borrowers will start to face the financial consequences of missed payments on their student loans. So the people that we're talking about here are, people that are potentially delinquent on their loans currently. So that means you've missed a payment, you missed up to 3 payments, so you can be delinquent for 90 days. After those 90 days, your loan is essentially flagged as delinquent. At that point, it can affect your credit score. And then, once you're about 9 months of no payment, then your loan goes into default. And that's when you can really see these very serious financial consequences, like she said, wage garnishments, tax credit garnishment, Social Security, things that, people really rely on to make ends meet. Those are things that that the government can start to garnish in order to, essentially make a payment on that debt that you owe.
I'm sure a lot of these people really wouldn't mind if Kamala Harris is the one who was sitting in the Oval Office.
Well, I think the one point that is important to make here is that 2025 was going to be the year that these consequences were going to be faced. I think the problem that you have right now is that, or the thing that might have been different in another situation, is that this is happening all while this administration has decimated the Department of Education by, essentially cutting half of its staff, making big cuts to the staff in the Federal Student Aid Office that is really charged with managing this process. And also all while they are wanting to make changes, installing essentially applications for student loan repayment options that are more manageable, like the SAVE plan that would reduce payments for borrowers. So I think the real issue is that this is happening all while this administration is doing a lot of other things that are hurtful, that are causing chaos for student borrowers. So it's really creating a perfect storm of all of these things kind of coming to a head at the same time. And this is really the last thing that borrowers need when there's already a lot of chaos, a lot of unanswered questions about what they should be doing, how they should be repaying their loans. I think this is the other thing to really take note is, people want to make payments on their loans. They want the payment to be manageable, but they want to make payments, but they don't know how. Like the process just isn't clear for people to start going down that path of finding like the right repayment plan for themselves and really starting to make those payments. So the idea that, this administration is trying to bring clarity in this moment, if anything, there's a lot of chaos and confusion in this moment.
And they're not going to give them any relief. They're going to be, hard asses on this. I mean, folks just might as well get used to it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think that we will necessarily, see a lot of leniency or the administration, potentially trying to find ways to make repayment easier. I think in previous administrations, people understood that these financial consequences of default are very real for students and borrowers and their families at a time when we're seeing, cost of living go up, housing, childcare, all these different costs that are really stretching families thin. So that is why there was really this attempt to make repayment easier on families and trying to create repayment plans that were more affordable, that could provide relief. That is not what we're unfortunately seeing right now out of this administration at a time when a lot of these flexibilities are coming up.
So folks just might as well prepare themselves because they're going to come after the money.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think what I would recommend is that if you do have student loans, if you haven't been making payments, you should contact your servicer. The Department of Education, says that you can contact them to figure out what your next step is to make a payment. So, I would make sure that I would contact the servicer. I would contact the Federal Student Aid office and see what your options are. Make sure that you understand what plan you're on, whether you can get on a more affordable plan in order to avoid delinquency or default. The problem is, I don't know that you will get your questions answered or your call answered. So I would say, I would urge people that if you can't get through to somebody, then you really should make your voice heard with your member of Congress and really make them understand that, you're trying your best, you're trying to get in touch with the agency, you're trying to make it right. But sometimes it's going to be really difficult, again, because of the staff cuts. So I think those are the big things for people to know right now. There aren't a lot of options. There's not a lot of clarity. So I would, actively reach out, again, to the Department of Education to the extent that you can get through to your servicer or to your member of Congress.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Roxanne, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You know what, Teresa? Again, elections have consequences, and there were so many people who were whining, complaining, moaning, oh, Biden's not doing enough. Well, what you gonna do now?
Well, what most people are going to do is hopefully reach out to their student loan provider and try to get on a monthly payment schedule like I did. I think when the first announcement came out, obviously we was all waiting for Biden's plan to get it across the finish line. But again, the roadblocks in the Supreme Court also halted that opportunity to alleviate so much payment debt from so many. But now, again, we're, instead of being alleviated from all these student loan debt payments, we're now being forced to pay in full. And so, you and your guest was totally right when it comes to like elections have consequences, and those consequences are, meeting us exactly where we are in our home and in our everyday life. So when people are complaining about eggs, just remember, you now have to pay a student loan debt that's 3 times the cost of what it is to purchase eggs at this moment.
Mustafa?
I mean, it's just the continual foolishness of this administration. I mean, so you got people who are in survival mode, right? There are so many people trying to keep the lights on, trying to put food on the table. They literally just trying to survive. I had a few folks who I know who actually reached out to the Department of Education because they're trying to, figure out what they could do and how they could, rectify some situations. They just couldn't get anybody to answer the phone, or, they get transferred. So you've got that dynamic when you have the hollowing out of these agencies and departments. And then you got, the impacts that are going on. Like they said, wage garnishments, you got tax refund offsets. That means that you think you're getting a tax return and you're not going to get it because they're going to use it toward whatever the balance is. And then the other thing that follows people for a long time is the negative credit report stuff. So somebody's got to do something differently. Here's the last thing, too. You know how Trump always talks about how he loves, these Norwegian countries, whether it's Norway or Finland or Sweden or Denmark or Iceland, all these countries that he often, wants to emulate. It's interesting because all of them, if you are a student and you want to go to a university or a college that's public, it's free. So that's actually where we should be headed. But in this moment, we got to deal with this particular issue. Pick up the phone, send an email, go up to Capitol Hill and let folks know that you have some concerns here and that you're trying to get it right, but that is causing you some significant, distress and harm. And for some folks, it's going to put them in a bad situation because once you get negative credit, it just follows you around like a ball and chain. So, but as you said before, you get what you vote for. You had the opportunity to actually have somebody who understood what it means to be out there grinding and to be out there trying to do the best that you can. And you decided that wasn't the individual that you wanted. And then you had someone who is a billionaire who's never had to worry, or his children never had to worry about going to college and paying for it. And you chose the individual who has absolutely no idea who you are and doesn't care about you. So once again, you get what you vote for.
Indeed, indeed. All right, folks, going to a break. We come back more on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Folks, support the work that we do. Join our Brina Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible. Let's do what we do, the kind of coverage that we do. Cash App. That's right. Use Stripe QR code or go to blackstarnetwork.com to actually get it as well. You want to send a check or money order, do so by sending it to, first of all, making it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
This week on the other side of change.
Black Maternal Health Week.
The racial disparities are undeniable, making it clear that Black people experience racism from the womb. America and America's healthcare system has not taken the time to invest in what quality healthcare looks like for Black birthing people.
The state of Black maternal health in the United States is still dismal. It is environmental racism. It is systemic racism. It is the systems that we are born into.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Now that Roland Martin is willing to give me the blueprint, hey, Cyrus, I need to go to Tyler Perry and get another blueprint because I need some green money. The only way I can do what I'm doing, I need to make some money. So you'll see me working with Roland. Matter of fact, it's the Roland Martin and Cheryl Underwood show. Well, should it be the Cheryl Underwood show and the Roland Martin show? Well, whatever show it's going to be, it's going to be good.
It's always important to fight back. Donald Trump has been attacking Ivy League schools like Columbia and Harvard. His administration sent a letter to Harvard, y'all, literally saying, hey, I think that you guys ought to pay us. And I'm sorry, you allow the federal government to have oversight over your university and allow us to audit the thinkings of faculty, staff, and students. They said go to hell. Trump said, well, I'm going to hold up $2.2 billion in grants. And they announced another $1 billion. And they claimed, well, the letter was sent erroneously or inadvertently, but you actually put it together and you put it on letterhead. Now Harvard is suing the Trump administration, saying you are breaking the law when it comes to canceling grants. See, here's the deal. Trump thinks he's a king. And he thinks that he can just unilaterally say, we're not going to sit here and spend money on grants. Here's the only problem. Congress passes laws. Now, first of all, let me explain this bunch of y'all, especially you simple Simons who've actually never read the Constitution. Anything dealing with money has to begin in the House of Representatives. That's actually in the Constitution, okay? So it begins in the House, bill is passed in the House, then it goes to the Senate, then another bill is passed in the Senate. Those two then have a conference, and then they actually sort that thing out. The House revotes on the agreed to bill, the Senate revotes, and it goes to the president for the signature. That's what happens. Congress decides who gets what money, not the executive branch. So Harvard says you're actually breaking the law by canceling grants because Congress has a procedure that's spelled out exactly how grants can be canceled. So as a result, they are suing the administration, saying that it violates the university's First Amendment rights. It also says it violates Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. For me, Teresa, this is how you treat bullies. You punch them back. The problem that we have right now in this country, major law firms capitulated. Trump issued these executive orders that were frankly illegal. And instead of fighting them like they should, they all ran scared and was like, oh, no, we're going to cut deals. And then Trump says, fine, y'all do pro bono work for stuff that I think you should be fighting. And too many capitulated. We're now seeing the news media right now. Bill Owens, who is the head of 60 Minutes. What happened? He sent a letter today stepping down from 60 Minutes. Now, folks, I'm going to show you in a second the letter that he actually sent out because he declared that he's actually lost the editorial independence to run 60 Minutes the way he sees fit. This is what he actually sent the staff. He said, the fact is that 60 Minutes has been my life. My son was 6 months old. My wife was pregnant with my daughter, and my mother was in a coma when I spent 5 weeks on the battlefield in Iraq with Scott. My 60 Minutes priorities have always been clear, maybe not smart, but clear. Over the past months, it has also become clear that I would not be allowed to run the show as I have always run it, to make independent decisions based on what was right for 60 Minutes, right for the audience. So, having defended this show and what we stand for from every angle, over time with everything I could, I'm stepping aside so the show can move forward. The show is too important to the country. It has to continue, just not with me as the executive producer. Please remember, people didn't think we would survive without Mike or Ed or Don or Jeff. We did. You will. 60 Minutes will continue to cover the new administration as we will report on future administrations. We will report from war zones, investigate injustices, and educate our audience. In short, 60 Minutes will do what it has done for 57 years. He says Wendy McMahon has always had our back, and she agrees that 60 Minutes needs to be run by a 60-minute producer. Tanya has been an amazing partner, as have Claudia and Debbie, Matt Richmond, and Matt Polvoy. I'm grateful to all of them. Look, I have worked at CBS News for 37 years, more than half of that at 60 Minutes. I have been shot at and threatened with jail for protecting a source. I've overseen more than 600 stories as executive producer of 60. I know who I am and what I have done to cover the most important stories of our time under difficult conditions. I'm also proud to have hired the next generation of correspondents and to call Leslie, Bill, Anderson, Sharon, John, Cecilia, and Scott friends. Scott, one of my closest, meaning Scott Pelley. Thank you all. Remain focused on the moment. Our audience deserves it. Bill. Now, why did he actually send that, folks? He sent that memo to the staff because CBS is being sold. Sherry Redstone is selling Paramount, which owns CBS, which owns 60 Minutes, to Larry Ellison and his son. They need the Trump administration to sign off on it. Trump has filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against 60 Minutes and CBS and Paramount because he's mad about their interview with Vice President Kamala Harris, claiming that they edit it. Well, Fox News edits all of his interviews as well. They released their transcripts, ain't no big deal. But Sherry Redstone, because she wants her billions, is willing to settle with Trump. They're going to mediation because she wants the company sold. Here's what we're dealing with, Teresa. You've got these billionaires, these oligarchs who care about money. They don't care about the law. They don't care about integrity. They don't have morals. They don't have values. They don't have principles. They don't care about journalistic integrity. They don't care about the First Amendment. They don't care about these things. So you're seeing these folks capitulate. You're seeing them bow down. And Trump knows if he can weaken the colleges, if he can weaken the press, then he is able to rule like an autocrat. That's why Harvard's saying, oh, hell no, we're going to fight y'all in court. Is so important because you've got to punch the bully back.
These are such bold moves that have been front and center of our faces, weeks after weeks. And, it is troubling just to see some of the latest news that is coming out. And you're absolutely right, Roland. When it comes to those of influence with money, we've seen it first with super PACs on the political side. And now we're seeing it in government, right? Creating an entire entity of DOGE, of trying to figure out how to cut budget and spending like accountants aren't available and accessible. So there's just so much going on right now. Glad amongst other universities are stepping up and suing. Attorney General here, Josh Shapiro, is suing the Trump administration. So like Mustafa said earlier, state attorney generals and local prosecutors are doing their part to make sure that our cities and states are secure. Unfortunately, it isn't enough, but it is a start to punching back to an administration that feels like they have the utmost power and support within inside the walls. And again, that is not government, that is not true journalism, and that is not democracy.
Listen, you can't sit here and play games here. And the thing is, if you bow down this early in the first year, Mustafa, this man does not have a bottom. He will come back and he will take, and he will take, and he will take, and he will take, and he will take. He is not satisfied. His thirst is to decimate you, destroy you. And so you have to swing back with everything in order to knock his ass out.
Yeah. Luda said you better throw them bows. Some folks might remember that. I'm glad that Harvard is throwing bows. And then you had a number of other colleges and universities who have also signed on to a letter of support. We'll see what that translates into. But that's exactly what it is. Anybody who grew up in the street, anybody who grew up on the playground, you understand what the dynamics are. If you let a bully continue to bully you, they will continue to take your lunch money. Then they'll take your shoes. Next thing you know, they done took your pants. And I don't even want to know what's after that. The reality of the situation is that you just can't let people run all over you. And this administration has a game plan, and they understand how to deconstruct all of the foundational elements inside of this country so that they can make sure that they have all of the power. They understand that education is a critical part of that. One, they want them to bow, but they also want them to change their curricula. They want them to change who they accept into colleges and universities, so forth and so on. They understand the other way that you take over is that you control the mechanisms around communication. And of course, whether it is TV stations or radio stations or whatever it might be, that could help to balance out and help people to get information so they can make an informed decision for themselves. They're not interested in that. They want something like the novel 1984, where people are controlling what is being shared, and the only narrative that you ever receive is what Trump says is reality. Even when you, with your own eyes and your own ears, know that there's something different going on. If someone continues day after day after day to feed you misinformation and disinformation, you will eventually start to believe it, and you will cower. So I'm glad that there are people who are fighting back. I'm glad people are finally finding a spine, because for the longest time, folks act like they didn't have any cojones. So, you just got to change the dynamic.
Yeah, I just think that, again, you can't not stand idly by and allow this thug to do what he is doing. Otherwise, he is going to continue to take whatever he wants. I mean, he operates like a mafia thug. That's who he is, Teresa. Call it what it is. And so all those law firms, oh, he's going to demand more. He's going to demand your first child, your firstborn, your lastborn. He's going to demand everything because this is nothing but retribution. And also, somebody posted something that's very interesting. Another reason why he can't stay at Harvard, because Harvard, Columbia, and Stanford all wouldn't admit his son. That's who he is. The amount of money that he went after Columbia for was the exact same amount of money Columbia turned down a sale to him when he wanted to acquire some of their property. This is a person who's about retribution. And this is a person who never should be allowed to have the level of power that a president actually has.
You're absolutely right. This is hopefully a learning curve to Democrats, as they're gearing up for the midterms, but also a call of action of the holes that we do have in our government right now that is allowing this ability to even happen from a standing president. Listen, it is, just from my generation, millennial, Generation Y, we're looking at this like this is not what was told to us as we were talking about what our Black history is, what our ancestors went through. And as we see, like, what's happening today, when we talk about, like, change and, is it supposed to, what is it supposed to look like? It seems like we're, essentially going backwards just a bit because of what's happening right now in our government that it looks like. So it's not really promising for the next generation, but I do believe, some of these young voices that we do have from AOC, Jasmine Crockett, at least they are standing up to say something. We have a lot of, our sitting elected officials from Congress and U.S. Congress and Senate that are absolutely not saying anything because of fear of retribution, and that just also has to change as well.
Yep, that is absolutely the case. All right, folks, we're going to a break. We'll be right back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On next, A Balanced Life, we're talking about the stress of stress and trigger warnings, looking at those areas in our lives where we often don't turn the page or turn the corner, but giving us the ability to really take a deep dive and look at who we are, the people around us, and the ways in which we're triggered.
A lot of times we are so stressed out because we are trying to control things that are outside of our sphere of control.
That's all next on A Balanced Life on the Black Star Network.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Well, folks, we had a couple of dumbasses who went down to Texas. One of them, a white supremacist, joined by a self-hating black man. The white supremacist is Jake Lang, a January 6th domestic terrorist insurrectionist, joined by Philip Anderson, another domestic terrorist insurrectionist. And so they went down to Texas regarding the case of Austin Metcalf. He, of course, is the white high school teen who was stabbed to death by a young black teen, Carmelo Anthony. And so he's with a group called Protect White Americans. Now, again, what's interesting here is that you have Philip Anderson, who is black, who is standing with Lang, who is white, and the group is called Protect White Americans. Well, it was real interesting because all he doing was he was going there just to get some attention, both of them. Well, they got the attention of Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff, who had some stern words for Lang. Basically was, we don't want you here, and go to hell home.
I see it. I travel across the country to reduce violence in black communities. Thank you. I stand with you, sir, on a regular basis. But today, I'm here on behalf of the father, Jeff Metcalf. Okay. And what he's asking you is to not use his son's image or likeness in what you're doing. You can do what you do, but that's not what he wanted his son tied to.
Okay.
Out of respect for that family.
Now, I would ask Jeff Metcalf if he would be bold enough to act like a father of a deceased young man that was murdered instead of being somebody suppressed, worried that he's going to spark the next race riots or some type of thing. He needs to stand for righteousness, not for the consequences of righteous actions always need to be taken seriously. He needs to be righteous before he is fearful. He is acting out of fear, not out of righteousness. He should have been on the top of the bus today. He should have been standing shoulder to shoulder with me.
Are you a father?
No, I'm not.
I'm a father. Hold on.
Amen.
I'm a father. As a father, there is this thing called grief. So let me tell you what's going on in his house. He's getting swatted. His only other son.
Who is swatting him? Which community?
No, we don't know the community, but it's happening. That's on the police to find. Secondly, he has a son who's a twin, who his son died in his arms. So that means he needs to navigate that. Then his son, who's his only son, is getting death threats. So as a father, his hands is full. So the last thing he wants to be tied to is having this complex of race. So yes, violence is bad. Young black men are getting killed every day by young black men across this country.
Yes, but I'm not a member of that community. I'm a member of my community, and my community is being victimized by the community of violent black, absolute degenerates.
But here's the problem.
They're degenerates.
When you stand up in the name of God, there's one body. And if you're not a part of that body,
I could read statistics. So I'm also a pragmatic human being. So I understand when there's a problem, it needs to be addressed head on. If you tiptoe around a problem, that's how you get to the end result.
So your biggest concern is the loss of white life by black people?
No, that's not my big. I have concern.
The concern is a repeating pattern. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. And we just can't ignore it any longer. If it stops, we're good.
So I have a question for you. Do you believe more white people are killed by white people or by black people?
Listen, by strangers, it's 2 to 1. Every single race in domestic issues, because we live amongst each other and uncles kill uncles or drunk at barbecues and stuff like that, it's always the same amount.
So your response is this.
Let me respond, please. Please let me respond.
Is your response that Mr. Metcalf needs to get on your bus and tell people
if I was him, I would do it.
But he's not you. So what I'm saying
is, I'm telling you, I'm somebody that stands for what I believe in, and I don't cower when it's time to stand.
If your desire
it's because
of fear.
My desire is that another Austin Metcalf does not happen next week. And if I was his father, I would stand righteously to say, yes, but I'm a man.
We all have common sense.
We know for his father.
Hold on. We know.
No, I'm speaking for white men in this country. I'm speaking for white people in this country.
Are you a father?
Are you a father? Hold on one second.
Are you a father?
I'm not.
Who are not dealing with grief. You talk for an hour.
Pause that right there. So the brother who was talking, his name is Bruce Carter. And you see him approaching him. Now, what y'all about to see this idiot, Philip Anderson. Now, Philip Anderson is the black fool. So here you got a black dude, okay, all skin folk and kinfolk, standing with this white nationalist. Just listen to this fool. And I ain't gonna play much more of this because they ain't deserving of it. So just watch this.
So if you want to address, I can give you after I give this message. The bottom line is this. You have a father that's out of respect asking you not to put his son's face in a place. How do you say you're going to represent people when you can't respect the will of the people?
Let me respond, guys. There's too much peanut gallery.
I'm sorry, you said what now?
His father did not say that. Can we please let me respond?
So you
believe.
Hey,
I'm having a conversation between you and I. Listen to this.
Yeah.
Austin Metcalf is no longer Austin Metcalf.
Here's the deal. All these two fools, Lang and that other fool, Philip Anderson, what they wanted was the media attention. But what you see here, people need to understand that these idiots exist. This is how dumb they are. And I respect Austin Metcalf's dad, who's like, no, I don't want y'all around. I don't want y'all on this. I don't want y'all near this crap. Because all y'all are trying to bring is a whole bunch of BS. That's all this is, Mustafa. And then he's like, oh, it's going to be a race war. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's what Lang desperately wants because that's what he thrives off of. And again, I don't know what that dumbass black dude is doing. I mean, I don't know where he come from. But then again, if you black, and if you were stupid enough to be down at the Capitol on January 6th on the side of MAGA, well, that lets us know how stupid you are.
I mean, racists are going to be racist, right? Hate is their oxygen. And when they don't have that, then they begin to suffocate, they begin to shrink. And that's why they continue to stoke these fires. You know, it's interesting because he wanted to talk about statistics, or at least that's what he said, although we know that that's not true. If he would even just go over to the FBI, they have the Union Crime Reporting Program, if it still exists, because they might have gotten rid of it here recently. It's better known as UCR, and it actually talks about crime inside of our country. And it's just what that other brother had shared. You know, white folks do crime on white folks, just like other groups do it. And a lot of it is proximity and all these different types of things that are part of the dynamics that go on. So, you know, trying to make a race war or all these different types of things is just a part of the talking points. It's a part of attracting folks who are, you know, who are hurt and in pain, who are looking for a group to be a part of and a cause to be a part of. And what folks should be doing is actually supporting the Metcalf family as they're going through their moment. And then, of course, the other young man who's a part of this, and trying to find ways of making sure that, you know, young men don't find themselves in these types of situations because we are infusing positivity and love and a number of other things that is often missing. So the courts are going to do what the courts do. The case will go through and folks will figure out, you know, what transpired and who was guilty. But on the other side of the equation is, you know, these individuals who look for these moments because they have nothing else. I believe, and I could be incorrect, that Lang is actually trying to run for office for Marco Rubio's old position. And, you know, nobody knew who he was. So he needs something because he has no policy to actually garner people's interest. So you'll see people, you know, gravitating toward hate and using that as their platform instead of things that actually uplift community.
Teresa?
It's a travesty, you know, no one has any policy ideas. So, you know, on the backs of people who are supposed to be represented by their representative, this is what we're doing, you know. But again, the door was wide open for this type of theatrical behavior in politics when Trump decided to run with no background in government, no curiosity about economics, but pure abuse and solemn, you know, hardship. So this is what we are dealing with because we have someone who doesn't care about the people. And I think this case is just amongst many. You know, you got Lang, who literally is wearing the Trump red tie, is trying to look the part, act the part, to get to the White House or some house, wherever. But it's unfortunate, and again, someone like me who's in communication, I'm also fighting these battles that's in miscommunication and relevancy in media and accuracy thereof. Because what's happening now is, I feel like it's an overkill with so many mainstream outlets that, you know, these smaller ones are just able to find a narrative and just keep poking and poking. So I don't know. It's just something that we definitely need to keep our eyes on.
Well, again, expect more of these crazy, demented fools to be out. And that's what is simply going to happen. All right, folks, funeral services for Pope Francis, who passed away on Monday, have been released. The Vatican has announced that Pope Francis's funeral will take place on Saturday. They've also released images of the pontiff lying in a simple wooden open casket in the chapel of the Santa Marta guest house. Folks, if you can show those photos, please. Cardinal Kevin Farrell presided over the certification of death following the Pope's passing at the age of 88 due to a stroke and heart failure. In his last words, Pope Francis reportedly expressed gratitude to his aides who facilitated his final appearance in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday, saying, "Thank you for taking me into the square." His coffin will be removed from the chapel of the Santa Marta guest house to St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday. There will be placed by the main altar for the public to visit and pay their final respects. After 9 days of mourning, cardinals from around the world were gathered in the Sistine Chapel to conduct a private vote to elect the new pope. The process typically takes 2 to 3 weeks, and all ballots, of course, are burned afterwards, and using a special chemical. If it's not a pope, it will be black smoke, and then once, of course, they were able to choose a new pope, it will be white smoke, letting the world know that a new pope has been chosen to oversee the 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide. And so, of course, as we said, the Pope is the head of state there for the Vatican. So as a result, you're going to see many heads of state from around the world attend the funeral on Saturday, and so that is going to be the case. Of course, this right here, the Vatican News. If again you look at their feed on social media, this is a photo. Give me 1 second. This is a photo they posted of the Pope, the rosary in his hand, and this is video here again of his body there, and so you're going to see folks from all over. We talked about his passing on yesterday. Mustafa and Teresa, want to give y'all an opportunity to speak. Obviously, extremely consequential. Conservative priests did not like what he had to say because he challenged them and even rebuked many of them, and so as a result, they're hoping that a conservative pope is chosen. Mustafa, you first.
Well, you know, he was the Pope of the people, right? Which was incredibly refreshing. He cared about the unheard and the unseen. He cared about those who were vulnerable and marginalized and wanted to make sure that he uplifted, you know, the things that they were going through. And I think that's the reason that he resonated with so many people across the planet. I'm not Catholic, but I've heard him speak a few different times. And I remember one time from the book of James, he talked about faith without works is dead. And I think about, you know, his life and how he was always one who made sure that people understood that faith was important, but it was also about who you are uplifting, who are you bringing in, who are you helping to protect. And that's why I think he will always be remembered. And that is also why some of those who are maybe more conservative in the doctrine did not see the greatness of what he was able to accomplish. So rest in peace. And thank you for everything that you did for humanity while you were here.
Teresa?
Yeah, I can say the same. You know, I think one of the proponents that he stood for that was noteworthy, you know, he was an advocate for the poor and marginalized. So emphasizing social justice and call for global efforts to address poverty and the rights of refugees and migrants. You know, he was a bridge builder. You know, he loved this simplistic life by living in a modest guest house rather than the papal palace. So, you know, his deep commitment to humility was just a simpler way of life. He made himself really, you know, part of the people and focused on pastoral care over politics. And I think, you know, as we are looking for those type of servant leaders, you know, regardless of religion, but, you know, him being the Pope, those are the type of attributes that when choosing the next Pope to reign over the Catholicism is what we look for.
So, folks, we will, of course, be carrying that funeral live here on the Black Star Network. All right, going to a break. We come back. Just a couple more stories, and then we will go live to Atlanta for the Target boycott town hall. Will be taking place there. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Breen and Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans on average every year, contributing $50 a year, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. If you can't give that and give less, we totally understand. If you can give more, that'd be great as well. If you want to give via Cash App, here's a QR code. To do so, use the Stripe QR code. You can also use that for credit cards. Check and money orders can be made out to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table,
I don't understand
with me,
how
Greg
was that
Carr.
in the script? But
the enormous impact of race, education, and affirmative action in America, and how, believe it or not, white America is starting to feel a little bit of the pain. Dr. Natasha Warriku joins us with a case study of one suburban community and how it reacted when the minority students started to excel.
And most people didn't say this explicitly, but was that, the academics standards are getting higher in part because of the Asian kids, and that is making our kids really stressed out. So we need to reduce the amount of homework teachers are allowed to assign.
She shares a perspective that you don't want to miss. That's on the next Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
Okay, this says Corrine. Corrine Torrance was last seen in Philadelphia on April 11th. The 12-year-old is 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighs 140 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Corrine Torrance should call the Philadelphia Police Department at 215-686-3153, 215-686-3153. I've repeatedly told y'all these MAGA people don't give a damn about regular, ordinary people. Rental assistance money for seniors and for single moms is running out. People are at risk of losing their homes because the emergency housing voucher program is running out of money. The program was a lifeline for nearly 60,000 households, helping folks escape being homeless, domestic violence, and even human trafficking. But HUD says the funding will run out by the end of the year unless Congress steps in. If these vouchers disappear, we could see one of the largest mass evictions in U.S. history. I don't think for a second, Mustafa, that these people give a damn, and I wouldn't be surprised if they allow it to run out and if the Republicans say they're not going to fund it because they want their billionaire, millionaire tax breaks.
I mean, you hit it right on the head. I mean, I would be very surprised also if they stepped up and did the right thing. And they're just going to continue to create these chaotic situations. They're continuing to put people in these survival situations, and it just doesn't make any sense. These are, in many instances, folks who are hardworking folks are just trying to be able to survive, trying to keep a roof over their head, and to not to do the right thing and to make sure that folks have this assistance just shows that, the dehumanization of individuals who are currently in office. And it's so unfortunate because it's just going to make these very challenging situations get so much more intense.
Teresa.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. We have currently not only people are losing their homes due to a funding shortage, but also food banks that serve underserved communities are also at federal risk. A lot of them are not getting their food to serve those who cannot have food in the morning to feed their families or their children if they are going to school. So again, same chaotic behavior. More leaders that are in position need to step up and address it a little bit louder, but also put their feet to the fire and do something more, because this is another outrage, because if these people lose their homes, where are they going? So it's a trickle-down effect that I'm not even sure the ones who are even thinking about, let's just cut the funding, are thinking about on a whole another scale on how they, are creating additional hardship for people that they are sworn to protect.
Indeed, indeed. All right, y'all, today is Earth Day, celebrated all around the world. But there are a couple of things that it's a lot of things we could talk about when it comes to the climate, how do we take care of Earth. But I saw this clip earlier, and I usually ignore stupid people who believe that the Earth is flat. I really do, okay? But that was a debate on Joe Budden's podcast. And rapper Wiz Khalifa says he believes the Earth is flat. But I'm going to show y'all a couple of things that makes this utterly hilarious. So let me first play this.
Is the Earth round?
I would say no.
What shape is it?
I just believe that we live on a flat plane. Yeah, like a huge flat plane. Yeah. It's only because I've traveled so much and I see like...
Did you ever get to the edge of the earth?
Nah.
Okay.
It's not that. There's more, I think that there's more masses than just what we see.
Just the earth.
Because we lived, it was one thing before and it's spread out.
Yeah, so it's layered like a pastry.
I wouldn't say layered like a pastry. I would just say like if this rug was the world, we would probably be like over there somewhere, and then there's just way more
other shit that we haven't discovered.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I think. Because when I travel, the routes that we take and how we do it, it's not possible to go up and down. You're just going straight.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you take that.
That's the only reason I think that.
Dog. Right, yeah. Of course he's right. You can say it for a second, just for a second. No, it's fine.
I never looped around. I never was on one place and then went to the other coast from that place. You always go the long way. You never just go like how
they talk about emergency landings and shit. The emergency landings don't really be what would make sense if you was looking at the map. I don't want to fight.
Somebody give me an edible.
I would love, man.
So why are we talking about conspiracy?
Yeah, because
is the Earth round?
I would say no.
What shape is it?
Like I said, no, not yet. No, don't switch yet. Why? I told y'all normally I don't play really stupid people. So when I typed Wiz Khalifa in Twitter search box, I typed his name in, and there are 4 categories. There's top, latest, people. Okay. 4 days ago, Complex posted a tweet. And don't go to it yet. The tweet says, Wiz Khalifa, Kush plus Orange Juice 2 out now. That means that they have a new album out. This is the album cover. This is the inside of it. This is the album cover. Mustafa, Mustafa, I'm confused. If you go on a podcast and say the earth is flat, why your ass don't put a flat ass photo on your album cover of the earth? Maybe, you know what? Here's what I think it is. Maybe he gave that answer. Maybe go ahead and show the album cover again. You know, maybe he gave, you know, Mustafa, it just hit me. Maybe he gave that answer. Maybe he gave that answer because with the album cover, I think the album cover is covered with weed. So I think he was high as hell when they were talking on the show about the earth being flat. What you think?
Oh my goodness. No, somebody was definitely blazing. If he wasn't blazing, then I'm really concerned. I mean, there are all kinds of ways of getting at that. The scientific response is that the Earth is actually an oblate spheroid. What that means is that it bulges a little bit at the equators. On the top, on the north and south poles, it's a little bit flatter. So it is spherical. It is a circle for folks. But besides that, I mean, all you got to do is look at whether it is a satellite who's taking pictures or the missions that have gone to the moon or the space station. When they show the pictures, you can very much see that it is circular. I'll use very common language as I go through this. So you had to be high to be able to to be able to possibly justify you sharing that. But there's another part that's not funny is that, for folks who have influence, when they share these types of things, there are all kinds of people, hopefully not all kinds, there are a few folks out there who actually hear it and believe it. And that's another reason why we need to make sure that education is enhanced inside of our country. We got to make sure that folks understand at least basic science and basic math. You don't have to be a physicist or an astrophysicist to understand, some of these basic types of things that are so critically important. The other thing, too, is that it's somebody from our community. I love hip hop. But when folks from our community begin to also share misinformation, I'm going to say misinformation and not disinformation, because I want to make sure that I'm giving grace to this brother that he wasn't intentionally telling people the wrong thing. Now, when it gets back to the album cover, maybe he had nothing to do with the album cover because he could see that the earth is round and that, I guess in his idea of the world, we should have more opportunities for edibles and more opportunity to zone out. But in this moment, we can't afford to zone out because there are people who actually would love to take education away from kids inside of our community. So let's make sure that whatever we share when we're on the airwaves, that it is accurate and it is not something that could be harmful to the next sets of generations who will have to deal with lack of access to education.
See, Teresa, it's some shit I'm not gonna talk about with some people. Bring your ass on here, talk about your album, talk about music, talk about fashion, but we not gonna start talking about stuff that you have no idea what the hell you talking about. I ain't never really flew from one place to the other. I ain't never, ain't nothing spinning, ain't nothing moving, I wish I know folk don't want me to cuss, and I'm trying not to cuss, but this right here is, I need some rappers, I need some entertainers, I need some media people to shut up. Just don't even. See, you saw Mark Lamont Hill, because Marcus actually had debates on his podcast with some fools on this very topic. And I text Mark and I said, Mark, just tell me you were just doing it to get some clicks. But if Wiz Khalifa was sitting in this studio and said that to me, I would literally said, Wiz, just tell me you high or you just out your damn mind. To me, this ain't that difficult.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. And I'm going to go back to Mustafa's point that was just a missed opportunity. You had Angela Rye there as well. Some very intellectual.
No, that wasn't Angela Rye. That was Melissa Ford. That was Melissa Ford.
Okay. Saw it as a glimpse. But
you just saw a light-skinned black woman and you thought that was Angela.
I said Angela Rye.
No, that's not Angela. That's Melissa Ford.
That's good to know. But yeah, there was just a firm opportunity to really clear it up because, I'm sure that clip probably got millions of views. And so, when, you have somebody like Wiz Khalifa saying that the earth is flat, somebody could have literally just pulled up his album cover. Then why is the earth round on your album cover? Like, why is it an actual circle? I know Wiz Khalifa probably, because he's from, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, not Philly, but and he's probably traveled on I-95 quite some time and I-80, so it does look a little flat. But I'm not sure what happened there as he's thinking about what Earth Day really means to him and the ganja. But again, that is a missed opportunity to educate so we can and it didn't have to be harsh. It could have just clearly been. Let's stop there. The world is not flat. It is round because, right? And I think he would have taken that like, oh, that makes sense. But if no one's educating someone and they go into another podcast and say the same exact thing, or they then double down with a tweet, high or not, this is how misinformation spreads. And again, as we have more of our younger generation on social where, Wiz Khalifa, you're not seeing him on mainstream television. You are seeing him on social media, on podcasts, on digital platforms. They are picking this up and saying, well, my source is Wiz Khalifa. So they're going in the classroom telling the teacher that the earth is flat, and it's not. So.
And this right here is why we got some clueless ass people when it comes to politics, when it comes to what's happening in news. And just the other day, somebody came up in me and they said, Roland, can you believe that this person does not believe that we landed on the moon? And this millennial literally tried to tell me that we never landed on the moon, and that could have been in the studio. And you know what I said? I need both of y'all to get the hell out my face. I need y'all not to even talk to me. I said, don't even look at me, because I am not even going to entertain that level of stupidity that we didn't land on the moon. I can't stand conspiracy theorists, and I didn't even want to waste any of our precious time discussing this. And just so y'all know, the only reason I'm even discussing this is because we were supposed to go live at 7:30 to the Target boycott town hall, but they ass is late. That's the only reason this made the cut. And so otherwise, it would have never even made this broadcast. This is what we call stretching. But I just think, Mustafa, we got to learn just to tell some people, I ain't even gonna entertain stupidity. It's just, we just got to say, no, y'all just too stupid for me to even discuss. So why don't you go ahead, you the big time environmentalist, why don't you just go ahead and talk to folk about the importance of Earth Day before I start cussing?
Yeah, no, so let's make sure you ain't got to cuss nobody out. It's interesting. When we look at Earth Day, April 22nd, 1970 was the initial day where you had all kinds of different people from across the country coming together because there were real significant things that were happening at that time. You literally had rivers catching on fire because there was so much pollution that was in them. The Cuyahoga River there in Ohio literally caught on fire. It didn't catch on fire once. It caught on fire a number of times, but that was one of the things that really caught the country's attention. And then in lots of different locations across the country leading up to 1970, you had places where you couldn't even see the sun in the sky because there was so much smog And of course, that does some really dangerous things to people's lungs and a number of types of things. So you had all these people who got together at that time, and because of the activism, because so many folks who had came out of the anti-war movement and the environmental movement, they were able to push to get many of the landmark pieces of legislation that we now take for granted, whether it's the Clean Air Act or the Clean Water Act or some of the others that are so critically important in making sure that you have cleaner water to be able to drink and, cleaner air to be able to breathe. The missing component was that no one at that time was talking about environmental racism or environmental injustice in any significant way. So there was this gap that existed inside of the environmental movement for decades and decades until the environmental justice aspect began to move forward. And then thankfully, Warren, to you, Roland, when you came down to Warren County, North Carolina, which was one of the flashpoints where there's the Black community that those PCBs were being cited in, we continue each and every day to fight to get the attention on the impacts that are happening inside of our community. So I always honor Earth Day. I appreciate people talking about, making sure that we are protecting the trees and that we are protecting, Mother Earth. But we also got to bring it down to the level where folks, whether it's in Flint, Michigan or Jackson, Mississippi, or a number of other locations across our country, are dealing with these lead issues and kids having difficulty learning because of being exposed to all these chemicals. Or all the Superfund sites and brownfield sites that have all this toxic pollution that often gets located either in our communities or near our communities, or the fact that we've got, from the Harvard study, over 300,000 people who are dying prematurely from the burning of fossil fuels, from that air pollution. More people are dying from air pollution inside of our communities than are dying from gun violence or from overdoses of drugs or even from at the hands of police. So when we talk about Earth Day, yes, we should honor it, appreciate all the gains that we've made, but we also have the reality of the impacts that are still happening in Black communities across our country and brown communities on indigenous lands in a number of other locations. And now we have an administration that is doing everything in its power to eliminate environmental justice from not only the federal conversation, but the resources that are necessary to help our communities move from surviving to thriving. And they're also trying to make sure that science is no longer being honored or utilized. So that, when we think about, Wiz and the statements that he's making, it just goes to show why we have to make sure that we are investing in our communities and our schools to make sure that our students have the ability to become engineers and scientists or poets or whatever it might be, because everybody has the opportunity to be able to give back using that gift that they have. And education is one part of that, but the other part of it is understanding that there are people on the front lines who each and every day are literally dying for a breath of fresh air, who are dying to make sure that they have clean water to drink. And then, we had Catherine Coleman Flowers on not long ago, where she was talking about people literally walking in human waste. And it's in our communities where we often find, the lack of infrastructure, so sewers and everything else, all that waste ends up running back into our communities. Or you have the chicken farms and the hog farms that people are being placed to, and the smells are overwhelming along with the pollution that often impacts people's clean water, whether it is surface water or the water that they're trying to drink. So in this moment, when we think about Earth Day, we understand how incredibly important that moment was and everything that built up to the time that we're in. But we can never, ever forget about our most vulnerable communities who are continuing to fight each and every day to be able to move from surviving to thriving.
Mustafa mentioned what took place in Warren County a few years ago, a couple of years ago when the Biden administration went there. That is the home of environmental justice, where Black people were fighting there in the 70s. We were actually the only national media outlet that was live streaming that event. So this is what Michael Regan, he was speaking. Let's just show you some of what he had to say.
So not only did this community make a fuss, this community ignited a movement. And today, Warren County is synonymous with being the birthplace of environmental justice.
That was a perfect toss.
You know, those protests 40 years ago were not only a catalyst for the environmental justice movement as we know of today, but it was a real awakening of the consciousness of this community that had been underserved and overburdened for so many years. It demonstrates the transformative potential that exists when people peacefully mobilize and come together in a common pursuit. As Ms. Dolly Burwell put it, African Americans determined that henceforth and forevermore will have some say in the government that was controlling our destiny. So despite losing the initial battle, these visionary women and men sparked something so much bigger, so much more powerful. And that's what we're here today to honor and to uplift. The reason we've reached this moment when environmental justice is front and center to President Biden's agenda and EPA's agenda, is because of the unrelenting advocacy of so many of you here today. It's because of faith leaders and civil rights leaders, the labor community, the environmental justice community, folks like Vernice Miller-Travis, Dr. Bob Bullard, Reverend Barber, Dr. Wright, Juan and Anna Paris, and young leaders like my good friend, Lamisha Whittington, William Barber III, who are carrying this sacred mission forward. These are the people who have dedicated their lives to standing up and speaking out against racism and injustice and inequality. And they are finally being heard at the highest levels of the land, from Warren County to the White House. On day one of this administration, President Biden directed every single member of his cabinet to embed environmental justice and racial equity into all of our decision making. And, you know, I'm proud to say that EPA is at the heart of that mission. As administrator, I've had the privilege to travel across the country and see firsthand the injustices communities of color, low-income communities, and tribal communities continue to endure. Last November, I launched the Journey to Justice Tour, and I spent time in Jackson, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, meeting with communities on their front porches, in their churches, and in their schools. And the conditions that I saw on the ground were deeply troubling. I'm talking about children going to school right next door to chemical plants. Elementary school students using porta potties because of failing water infrastructure. And generations of families living in the shadows of petrochemical facilities. In my time as administrator, I've met with mothers whose children have been poisoned by the lead in the water. The water they drink. Elders, our grandparents, who must bathe with bottled water. Families watching as the flood waters continue to rise. Perhaps one of the most egregious examples of systemic injustice, you've heard it today, is Lowndes County, Alabama. Lowndes County, which sits right in the middle of Highway 80 between Selma and Montgomery, was a wellspring for the civil rights movement. The birth of the Black Panther Party. Lowndes County became known as Bloody Lowndes because when organizers and protesters attempted to register black people, they were beaten and battered, even evicted from their homes. So I visited Lowndes County so that I could see up close the injustices that folks have been living with for decades. Pipes protruding from the side of their homes, spilling raw sewage in the same places where their children play. I'll never forget two beautiful children that I met, their toys scattered around a lagoon filled with waste. It was as if these children were conditioned to accept that this is the way it's supposed to be. But that's not the way it's supposed to be. Not for those children in Lowndes County, not for the children in Jackson, Mississippi, not for the children anywhere in the United States of America. So from Lowndes County, Alabama to Warren County, North Carolina, these communities show us that the fight for civil rights and environmental justice are inseparable. For health justice, for racial justice, for economic justice, for climate justice. We cannot be for one without being for the other. President Biden and Vice President Harris, they understand this viscerally. The president and vice president see everybody for who they are and who they can be when they're given the opportunity to soar. So from Justice 40 to the bipartisan infrastructure law to the historic Inflation Reduction Act, we are finally ensuring that communities who have long borne the burden of pollution see, breathe, and feel the benefits of the federal government's investments. It's about changing how our government works and who it works for, something that so many of you today have dedicated your lives to realizing. So if we're going to change how the system works, we have to change the structure of the system. And that's exactly what we're going to do. I could not be prouder to announce.
Well, of course,
that today,
unfortunately, after what the EPA did, the Trump administration completely decimated that because they call all of that DEI. And so, again, this is what we always say when we talk about how elections have consequences. Folks, they're having technical issues in Atlanta. We're trying to get those sorted out. We've been on the phone with them when it comes to their feed from the town hall there. And so once that gets straightened out, we want to have it. We'll be able to stream it for you live. We're going to go ahead and close the show out. Let me thank Mustafa and Teresa for joining us on today's panel. Thank you so very much. And so again, once we have this straightened out, we're going to have it live for you right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Folks, that's it for us. I certainly appreciate y'all watching today's show. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars are critically important for the work that we do. If you want to contribute via Cash App, you can do so via the Stripe QR code. And so you see it right here. Use this QR code link right here. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. You want to send a check, money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear. The Browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. Available bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version on Audible. You can also, of course, get our Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network merchandise by going to rolandmartin.creator-spring.com. The QR code's there as well. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app Fanbase. You can catch that right here. Download the app, the Fanbase, Android or Apple, and of course, you can also invest. They raised almost more than $11 million. The goal is $17 million in the Series A raise. Get more information at startengine.com/fanbase. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?